7 News, as you would have heard, the coach of the Adelaide Crows, Phil Walsh, has been killed.
Walsh's 26-year-old son, Cy Walsh, has been charged with his murder. Reporter Jessica Adamson is at the scene in Somerton Park. Jess, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Jane and John. Phil Walsh's 26-year-old son, Cy, was charged with murder about an hour and a half ago. He's now undergoing a psychiatric assessment at the Flinders Medical Centre, and he is expected to face a bedside court hearing there later this afternoon. It was at about 2 a.m. that paramedics were called here to the Walsh family home in Bungie Avenue at Somerton Park. What they were confronted with was Phil Walsh with multiple stab wounds. Now, as police say, it is unclear what the argument was about, but sources close to the family say that Cy Walsh was suffering from depression, that he did have some issues that the family were trying to sort through. There had been some estrangement, but he had moved back in with the family in recent months. What we've seen here this morning is just an outpouring of grief. Young footy fans have been filing here, both Crows and Port Adelaide supporters, and laying flowers. No one can believe that a man with such a zest for life is no longer with us. Back to you.
Our reporter Jessica Adamson's at the scene. Jess, what's the latest?
Well, Jane, crime scene investigators are still inside the Walsh family home, and it's understood they will be here for some time. In the meantime, major crime detectives are asking the public for some help. They urgently want to hear from anyone who saw Phil Walsh's 26-year-old son, Cy, on Brighton Road in the early hours of this morning. They believe he was walking north along Brighton Road towards First Avenue, Glenelg East, and we now know that is the street in which police detained him. Between 1:45 and 2:30 this morning, they described Cy as 180 centimetres tall, with a thin build, spiky blonde hair, and he was wearing a dark top and dark pants with grey and brown Converse shoes. Now, I've been told police are also checking for security vision in businesses and premises along Brighton Road, just to piece together every part of this investigation. John. And John, one of the things that has been discussed here this morning amongst fans and certainly in the wider football community is what is going to happen to the game this weekend. Some fans are saying we should cancel the Crows match as a sign of respect. Who knows what Walshy would have wanted us to do, but that too will become clear later in the day. We'll keep you posted with developments here. We'll tell you exactly what police are doing throughout the day. Back to you.
Jess, you've got some breaking news.
That's right, John. Police have just told us in the last couple of minutes Phil Walsh's 26-year-old son has been charged with his murder. Now, there will be a bedside hearing later this afternoon in hospital. We'll bring you details of that as they come to hand. So just repeating, Phil Walsh's son has been charged with his murder. What a tragic story this is. We'll keep you posted. John. The AFL in the last few minutes has issued a statement. It says, "Our industry is grieving. Phil Walsh was a man of boundless energy and enthusiasm, and his death is a tragic loss."
Walsh's wife was also injured in the incident. Live now to Jessica Adamson, who's at the crime scene in Somerton Park. Good morning, Jessica. Phil Walsh's son has just been charged.
That's right, Anne. Good morning. Phil Walsh's 26-year-old son, Cy, was charged with murder a short time ago. He's currently having a psychiatric assessment at the Flinders Medical Centre here in Adelaide, and it's expected he will face a bedside court hearing later this afternoon. Now, paramedics were called here to the Walsh family home in Bungie Avenue at Somerton Park at about 2 o'clock this morning. What they were confronted with was Phil Walsh with multiple stab wounds. They did try to resuscitate him, but tragically they couldn't save his life. Phil's wife, Meredith, was also injured. She has a leg wound. We understand that is also a stab wound, and she is being treated also at the Flinders Medical Centre. Now, major crime detectives, a short time after coming to the house, they went to First Avenue in Glenelg East, which is just a few minutes from here, where they detained the Walsh's son, 26-year-old Cy, and he was taken into custody immediately. Let's have a listen to what Des Bray, the head of our major crime squad, had to say earlier this morning.
It's not even just that he's a high-profile person.
And are police saying anything more about the incidents which led to the death?
Well, Anne, Cy Walsh lived here at the family home, and police have told us that he came home at about 2 o'clock this morning and he had an argument with his father. It's unclear what the argument was about, but people close to the family have told us that Cy was battling depression and that he had some estrangement from his family in recent months. He had moved back into the family home though, and they were trying to work through those issues. A short time ago, a group of detectives went to First Avenue and Glenelg East, where they are now door-knocking residents. They're really trying to work out the moments leading up to the alleged murder, and they're trying to talk to neighbours to see whether anybody saw anything or anybody heard anything. We'll bring you the latest from the bedside court hearing later this afternoon.
All right, Jessica Adamson, thank you very much.
Good evening and welcome to this extended edition of 7 News. The Pinery bushfires cut an enormous swathe of destruction through the lower north. Thankfully, the CFS says it's now 60% contained. We cross first to Jessica Adamson, who's at Nuriutpa, where there's a CFS staging point. Jess, what's the latest?
Good evening, Jane. Well, this is what we know so far. 2 people are confirmed dead, a 56-year-old Hamley Bridge woman and a 69-year-old Pinery man. 16 people have been taken to hospital, 5 remain in a critical condition. 16 homes have been lost, but that figure's expected to rise. Livestock has perished, including 60,000 chickens and hundreds of pigs near Wasleys. 85,000 hectares have been blackened, with the fire scar perimeter stretching over 200 kilometres. Hamley Bridge is one of the towns hit hard. Mark Mooney's there. Mark? Fire cause investigators and police major crime detectives today converged on the site of ignition. From their preliminary investigations, they say the fire was not deliberately lit. Stacey Lee reports from Pinery, where the blaze started and claimed its first life. Insurers have declared the disaster a catastrophe. The losses for farmers and the state are enormous, from homes, buildings and machinery to crops that were ready to harvest, livestock and even family pets.
Now we'll go back to Jess Adamson at Nuriutpa, where there's a CFS staging point. And Jess, have the interstate firefighters hit the ground yet?
Yes, Jane, some of them have. We're expecting 300 in all from Victoria. Some have arrived by road while others have flown in. They gathered here at the Nuri Oval to get a briefing this afternoon, but are now out on the fire ground working in strike teams of 5. They're mopping up and fighting breakout fires to allow some of our crews a well-earned rest.
Know the definitive cause of this fire?
Well, Jane, police already have their suspicions about how this fire started, but the official cause could take some days to determine. Crime scene examiners, as we know, have spent the day at the ignition point at Pinery, at the northwestern point of the fire, and they don't believe it was deliberately lit, which is good news given lives have been lost. Now, police will be doing all they can to give these grieving communities some answers quickly. Jane.
Now, the Royals are currently on their way to the Barossa Valley, where our reporter Jess Adamson is among the thousands of people in Tanunda who've turned out to greet them. Jess, have the royal couple arrived yet?
Not just yet, Jane. They are due to arrive here any second now. Good morning, Jane and John, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the beautiful Barossa Valley. Everybody here is so excited. There's more than 1,000 school children that have lined Murray Street, the main street of Tanunda. Tanunda was given just 1 month's notice to prepare for this event, and gee, they've done a fantastic job. The town is looking absolutely magnificent. Now, Camilla will be meeting with members of the Country Women's Association. She'll be unveiling a plaque for them. And the CWA ladies have told me they've been very nervously and excitedly practicing their greetings for the Duchess. They'll be presenting her with their latest cookbook, a calendar of cakes. Jane, we know how good their cookbooks are, so I'll try to grab one for you. They'll also be talking about the Barossa Men's Shed while they're here. That's a building that was opened in May, and it's been really popular with the locals here. It's a place where people from all walks of life can go just to have a cup of tea and a chat, and in particular returned servicemen and women who can go there, and it really has a strong focus on mental health. So what a great showcase of the town of Tanunda and the Barossa Valley they're about to see.
Jess is out in the street there, Jess, and I think excitement must be building as people expect to see that motorcade any moment now.
Oh, it's got to be getting very close now, Jane. We've just seen 2 police motorbikes come by with their flashing lights, readying the crowd. Everybody got very excited and started waving their flags. We can't see them just yet. One of the people that we had a chat to this morning in the crowd was a lady by the name of Claire Morrow. Now, she was a maid at Buckingham Palace between 92 and 95. She's an Adelaide woman. And, of course, they were the years when the rumours first started circulating about Camilla and Charles. So a really interesting lady to have a chat to.
Jess Adamson was watching their every move. Jess?
Mark, it's been a spectacular afternoon. The Barossa locals are exhausted but exhilarated. They only had about a month's notice to prepare for the royal visit, but boy, did they put on a show. The Royal Australian Air Force jet touched down at 12:57, heralding the start of a whirlwind South Australian tour. Charles and Camilla were met by dignitaries, including the Governor-General Peter Cosgrove, South Australia's Governor Hugh Van Lay and Premier Jay Weatherill. A quick wave and they were off, bound for Tanunda, and an excited crowd of thousands, many of whom had waited hours to catch a glimpse of the royal pair.
We've got a beautiful bunch of native Australian flowers to hand over. We're very excited. And Eva's been practising her curtsy.
I've got a birthday card to give him.
Hello, Your Royal Highness.
Just after 1:30 and the Barossa, famous for its wine, was to shine again on the world stage, rolling out a welcome mat fit for a future king and queen. In a sea of cameras and iPhones and grateful children who'd been given a reprieve from class, the royals stopped to talk and shake hands. Claire Morrow, a one-time maid at Buckingham Palace, was thrilled to meet her former boss.
I told my boys today I was doing a bra and nick around to get on telly, but they said, Mum, it's already been done.
A welcome to country, wine tasting and the opening of the CWA was to follow, while some were overjoyed.
So exciting. I was like bouncing.
It was too much for others, so taken by Tanunda, the royals didn't want to leave. But leave they eventually did, bound for the sprawling estate of Seppeltsfield Wines, where after a quick security sweep, they met local winemakers, artisans and coopers and sampled tawny port from the years of their birth.
On one of those cold English nights, he can have a bit of a heart starter.
Speaking of heart starters, Camilla showed off her cheeky side when handling handmade knives. Perfect for sampling some delicious South Australian produce laid thick at Fino Restaurant. And after spending the afternoon in the Barossa, the royal couple headed to Adelaide, to Government House and to Bowden. Elspeth Hussey has the details.